Hello and welcome to this special broadcast on the occasion of Desertification and Drought Day 2024, which this year also marks the 30th anniversary of the United Nations Convention to Combat Desertification. And we are joined today here in Bonn by very, very special guests. First and foremost, Her Excellency Tarja Halonen, the first, but hopefully is a trailblazer, President of Finland, a woman, and a land ambassador for the convention since 2014. Welcome, President Halonen.
Thank you.
Ricky Kesh, to my right, an award-winning musician, multiple Grammys. I think the shelf is getting very busy. From India, and who has been our land ambassador, but also goodwill ambassador since last year. Welcome to Bonn, Ricky.
Thank you so much.
Last but not least is Mr. Ibrahim Thiaw, the Executive Secretary of the Convention since 2019. Obviously, your home is here in Bonn, and we're very welcome and very happy to have all of us today for a discussion on really picking up some of the main themes that were discussed yesterday. Because the theme of this year's Desertification and Drought Day is United for Land, our legacy, our future. And my first question to all of you, very briefly, what does this theme and intergenerational land stewardship mean to you personally? President Halonen.
So I think that for the citizenship of this planet, there is no time limits. No age limits, and that's why I think that it's very important to tell that the youth has to have more space for their opinions, and they are representing not only the future, but they are also now a very big part of the global population. But then people who are in working life, of course, they have a lot to do, but they should remember that also the planet itself needs caring. And then we who are already elderly, who are already, like I'm a grandmother of the 5 grandchildren, and I'm a retired officer, being a president. So we have not, and I have not retired from the citizenship of the planet. So I have to also be on board all the time and think that together we make the future of the planet Earth.
Thank you, President Halonen. Mr. Thiaw.
Well, President Halonen just said it. I have not retired from being a citizen of the earth. We need to be connected, young and older generation. We need to work together to save the planet. Of course, we more aged people, more advanced in age, we have done our bit in contributing to the destruction of the planet. We have to build an alliance with those who will be bearing the brunt the most from the destruction that we and maybe our parents have also contributed to. In a way, using the new technologies in the world, using the new knowledge, the new science, satellite data, and be able to actually project ourselves and do some analysis to see how many are we going to be in the future, what will be our footprint, and how together we can reduce that footprint on the planet. How can we use the knowledge and the science we have to build a better world?
Thank you, Mr. Thiaw. Ricky Kesh.
So in my personal opinion, with all the problems that we face on our planet, especially what we're speaking about right now, whether it's climate change, whether it's land desertification and drought, I believe that the biggest threat to us as a species is the constant thought that we have that somebody else will make a difference. We're always waiting for governments, for intergovernmental bodies, for leaders and politicians to make a difference, when the truth is that the only way we can bring about meaningful change is if we change our own behaviors. So I believe that we need to find ways to inspire ourselves and to inspire everybody around us, to be the change that we want to see in this world. And that becomes really important. And the issue over here is not about awareness, it's just that we feel that we are very insignificant. Like if I change my relationship with the fiber that I wear, or if I change the relationship with the food that I eat, what difference will it make? Because I'm just one person. But that's all that matters, and I believe that that's what we need to do. We need to inspire ourselves to believe that we are significant by making these really small, tiny, incremental changes within our own lives, and that's all that we need to do. Because we always talk about changing the world, but we very rarely talk about changing ourselves.
Thank you so much, Ricky. Well, President Halonen, you have been also a champion of women's empowerment throughout your illustrious political career, but also since last year spearheading the global campaign to advance women's land rights. Can you tell us how far we have come on this issue and how much more remains to be done?
I think that the women's rights are generally accepted. I mean that there are quite few persons who say that they are against that. And that's also concerning the women's lands right. When we counted that what is the legal situation in UN member countries, we noticed that not so bad, quite good. But then when we compared it to the practical life, everyday life, we noticed that about 100 member countries are such kind where the women feel or they really have not the same rights in practical life, either to own the land or to inherit land or to work as an officially farmers. And if they are not officially the owners of the land, and also in practically, so they cannot attend to the different kind of the education courses, or they can get the subsidies and so on. And that's why if we want to make the ownership more forceful, so we have to also to help them to give their rights. There are also a lot of women who are working in informal sector of agriculture, which is almost outside of all our UN programs. And then the third one is, of course, that when we think the future of the girls, so if the girls will have a future as a good official farmer, also the families have not so they are not so hurried to try to marry them, and they see that it is already future by being a girl and in the future the woman. So I think that the interest what the different UN organizations have shown us to be in cooperation tells very well that, for instance, the food production or the land degradation or all these kind of issues are connected to that. And so the lacking piece of the puzzle is very often it's a woman or the youth. But we have now, I think we have advanced very well. But now this is a very crucial year for the negotiations later on in autumn and winter. And so now this important issue is that how much there is in the negotiations of the climate change, in the negotiation of the biodiversity, or in our own negotiation in combat against desertification in December in Saudi Arabia, that how much it will be taken seriously. So implementation, that's what the people will say in practical life.
Thank you very much, President Halonen. And indeed, you have been also involved in the Gender Caucus, both at the COP15 of UNCCD in Abidjan, and we hope definitely also in Riyadh, where we can bring all these trends together.
This man, he's very much responsible. And that couple of years ago, when we say that we will make the call for the land rights of the women, so he was smiling, yeah, that's very interesting, and I was looking for that, how you will do that in Saudi Arabia after 2 years. Very good. And then we made this campaign, and it has succeeded pretty well. I don't know what you think about.
I think we have made good progress, but I'm still thirsty. I still feel we need to do much more. You know, I know where I came from. I come from the Sahel. And I come from communities that have nothing else but land. They don't have bank accounts. They don't have assets. They don't have salaries. Their daily life, their yearly life and economy depends on land and water. And the most vulnerable of all are women and children. So when we talk about land rights, I think about my sister. I think about my cousin who stayed in the village and whose life really depends on that. So if they cannot even own the land, that is the very basis of their life and their economy. And if someone else can come one day and just strip them out of that life, so to speak, then where would they go? And what will be their future? It is, it is very crucial that we understand that the vulnerabilities that we are talking about and the numbers, these are more than just numbers on the paper. They are individuals, they are families. Some families are dislocated. Some children are forced to migrate. This migration that we are talking about, it is not out of will. They are forced. They have no other choice but to flee. So it is very important that we make sure that they are given all the means to actually make a valuable contribution and value that land. You know, what is shocking even more is that most of the time, it is not shortage of land. It is not even water scarcity. It is sometimes lack of energy, sometimes lack of political will, and which is leading to situations where we see really terrible situations. Now, this gender inequality that we are talking on land access and land ownership is not designed by law. I don't know any country that is designing a law saying that you women are discriminated against. Yeah. What is happening is that there are all traditions that have been perpetuated over years with a world that has been male-dominated, until now, and changing that will require a very proactive policy at the national level by the governments to say that, yes, from now on, we would like to see this. And that will be enforced at the national level, and that hopefully will require some cooperation internationally so that people learn from each other. You know, I think it is possible. It will take time, but we have launched this campaign, which I'm very happy about, and thank you all for your contribution. But we should be very conscious of the fact that it will take years to see the change that we are calling for.
And this is something what I think that it's useful that we have all the generations, because we see also that some of those rights which we consider, or the younger ones consider to be just as granted. And so it should be with the human rights. But it has not been even in the time of my mother or grandmother that it has demanded a lot of work, and sometimes it takes 5 years, 10 years, 60 years. And so, but that we have the will and we have the patience to do all that work.
Well, thank you very much. Let me stay with you for a second, Mr. Thiaw, because very often we are hearing that desertification, land degradation, drought, these are the issues that really only concern the global south. Myth or reality? And if myth, how do we change this perspective?
Land degradation and drought are global issues. They do not only concern the South. It is absolutely wrong to think that way. What is very specific to some countries in the South is the level of vulnerability. But drought hit all countries. The United States is not spared. China, Germany, France, Spain, it is hitting worldwide. Except in some parts of the world, you have some insurance systems, you have some governments that have capacities to alleviate the impact it is having on their communities. In other countries, there is no fat. Simply, there is no reserve anywhere, either in the central bank or in the assets they should own, to actually alleviate that situation and reduce the impact on the communities. So when droughts become a humanitarian disaster, that's where you see people reacting. Only then, when people start dying, then only then they will react. It is very important that we have a proactive approach. We have the tools right now. Science can tell us months in advance whether the likelihood of having a drought. So use the early warning systems in the world. Use more drought-resilient seeds. Use a more resilient economy to build companies, societies, investments that are tested to resist shocks that we are going to see in the future. Land degradation, on the other hand, is such a disruptor in the world that we should all be very conscious of that. If there is famine somewhere, it is food insecurity for everywhere.
Yeah.
When there is sand and dust storm in a country, it flies. It doesn't know borders. When you have situations of famine somewhere, people flee. They won't stay. They don't die just in their country because there is a political border. So I think we have all to understand that these issues are interconnected, and clearly there is a reason why in this convention, the UN Convention to Combat Desertification, there are 197 parties. There is a reason for that. They did not adhere to the convention simply because they want to be listed. They adhered because they want to contribute and because there is a platform in the United Nations, and only the United Nations can do that. As painful as these negotiations are, they are absolutely essential and they are irreplaceable.
Rikikesh, how does that resonate with you? India, we've just seen some cities shattering temperature records, all-time highs over in excess of 50 degrees. This message of global solidarity and how we can all work towards a more sustainable future, please.
Now, to go back to your previous question about gender inequality when it comes to climate issues, I mean, gender inequality is obviously a huge issue on this planet, and it cuts across all the sustainable development goals, especially when it comes to climate and when it comes to land degradation. I've seen with my own eyes with communities around me in India where, where due to uncultivable land, husbands migrate to, the big cities, and, the women are the people who used to work, in the fields. And the husbands go to the big cities, they start a new family over there. The women and children are left behind in their villages, and they're left to fend for themselves. They never hear back from their husbands. Also, even though the laws are absolutely in place in India, the issue is about traditions, as Mr. Ibrahim just mentioned. The problem is with traditions where they find it so difficult to inherit the land that is actually supposed to come to them. And all of these issues, they are the ones who are the worst affected. If land is sold, then they do not make any money. It's always the husbands who end up, with all of the money. So I guess these are things that we need to be sensitized to. I believe that, because me being a musician and artist, I believe that, it's really important to sensitize my audiences to, these issues, because only once we acknowledge these issues, only then we can probably find a solution to these issues. And that's what my job is. And Ina Moja, our UNCCD Goodwill Ambassador, and I, we did this song together called Her Land, which is based on the Her Land, Her Rights campaign, which talks just about this, that that land is deeply connected with women, and women cannot be left behind when these issues happen.
Thank you very much. My next question will be also to President Halonen in terms of, when we speak about political leadership, and we know how many issues leaders have to grapple with at the moment, how would you convince them to pay more attention to land when there is the economy, the political situation, so many other priorities?
So I think I try to convince them saying that this is the lacking piece of the puzzle, that when you think that how they could make such kind of the political decisions, they know themselves that they are important, they are needed, how they will be also reacted after these decisions. So I say that the one way is, of course, the influence to the common people, to tell them why this is necessary. And here I also speak about men and boys, young men, because if you see the studies concerning at the universities, the researchers, so the young women have understood it very well. And I think that it's perhaps also the heritage of come by their mothers and grandmothers. But then we have perhaps sometimes forgotten the boys and the young men. And in political studies, you see that in Western Europe, for instance, there are right-wing populists. It's mainly men, and also a lot of young men. And so they should understand that why all this is important. And I always say that 50% plus 50% makes 100%. These are the human resources we need to make a more safe future for our planet and its inhabitants. But I know that it's difficult. I have seen it with my own eyes that in Europe, which has been earlier very remarkable supporter in sustainable development, now after the Russia has made his aggressions to Ukraine, so the people are speaking and thinking mainly about the security in classical terms, armed conflicts and so. And we are, according to the UN, we have the armed conflicts in the world. This is the record after the Second World War. There are so many. It's not only Ukraine, it's Syria, it's Yemen, it's many other places. And that's why we should try also to convince people that what happens in sustainable development is one of the things what also makes conflicts. And then when we are working together in order to improve the sustainable development situation, it will obviously also decrease the possible amounts of the armed conflicts. So in a way, sometimes you have to speak a little bit more broadly than to say that you should do this, and to see that how it is one piece of the whole unit.
Thank you very much. If I come back to what you mentioned earlier, Ricky, you were talking about personal choices, about lifestyles. Of course, you are the one who is walking the talk. You know, you're vegetarian. You famously recycle your concert wardrobes, etc. But we know that as economies grow, usually does consumption. Do you think people are ready to embrace more sustainable lifestyles, and how can we convince them?
No, of course. I think that's really important. We have to go back to to a previous time when we used to buy whatever we used to buy with a lot of mindfulness, with a lot of deliberation, rather than just indiscriminately buying everything that is around us. That right now the paradigm that dictates whatever we can buy, whatever we can consume, whatever we can waste is what we can financially afford. If I can financially afford the same shirt in 20 colors, then why not just buy it, you know? Or if I can financially afford to buy all of these dishes, I'll just buy all of it and waste all of it. What we need to do is that we need to change that paradigm from what we can financially afford to what the planet can afford. And we have to constantly think about that when we make our choices. So, as I said, everything has to be bought with a lot of deliberation, with a lot of mindfulness. We have to do away with the use and throw economy, which we are so used to right now, and and adopt a more sustainable economy, which is all about recycling, all about reusing, upcycling, refusing to buy anything that we cannot reuse. I'll give you one quick example. During the pandemic, prior to the pandemic, I always had staff who would throw out my garbage every single day, and I did not know how much of garbage I was creating, and I did not know where it was going. And I'm an environmentalist, and even then I was not sensitized to that, and I'm ashamed to say that. And during the pandemic, I did not have any staff, so I had to put out my garbage every day. And I was shocked that I was putting out 2 buckets of garbage every single day. And I was like, what is all this stuff that I'm putting out every single day? Then I made it a point that I'm going to reduce that garbage to half a bucket every day from 2 buckets. And then I started making all of these life decisions, that I wouldn't buy stuff which uses a lot of packaging. If it's got packaging, then I would try to keep it with myself, and I would figure out ways to reuse it just so that I would reduce those 2 buckets of garbage to just half a bucket. And that's what made my lifestyle a lot more sustainable. And of course, I don't subscribe to the fast fashion. This suit that you see me wearing right now, if you go onto my Instagram, you'll see it in at least 15 or 20 different events that I've worn it at, because I believe that the planet does not bother about what you've worn previously. The planet bothers about how you treat it. So that's why, and fashion can be fashionable more than once. So we need to do away with that paradigm too, about that every single picture on your social media has to have a different costume. We should wear the same things, we should repeat the same clothes, and we should be proud of it and double down on it.
Buying less and buying better, absolutely.
And good quality stuff, and use it for a longer period of time.
And I know that Mr. Thiaw also is very interested in the link between land and fashion. But also, in addition to that, I wanted to just ask you, very often we're confronted with very big numbers, very scary numbers. It can occasionally seem overwhelming in terms of, the trends that we're seeing with land, with drought, with climate change, biodiversity loss, and so on. What is the one thing that you would like people to do to help land?
Do two things, not one. Reduce the footprint on land, so it means consumption, it means production. So we have to improve the way we produce. This slash and burn policy does not work anymore. There's no land reserve in the world. There are no new colonies that you can explore and grab. So reduce the impact. Second is to restore degraded land. Degraded land is not lost land, is not wasteland, should not be wasted. Land is land. So if you are able to restore degraded land back to health, then you can produce again more food. You can produce delicious food on it. You can have all the ecosystem services that you could think of. You can actually even restore mining sites to recreation centers and create opportunities for young people to actually thrive again and find the opportunity to actually live a decent life. So we have this planet that is there for us and that we have been misusing for a number of years, and we were confused between economic growth and destruction of the planet. Now we know that they are not incompatible, and we can do both, and we can live a perfectly decent life in a perfectly healthy planet.
Thank you very much, Mr. Thiaw, President Halonen, Rikikesh. Thank you for taking the time to join us today to share your insights. And thank you for being champions and leaders for our land and for United for Land, our legacy, our future, the theme of our Desertification and Drought Day and the 30th anniversary this year. Thank you again.
Can we all repeat the same? United for land, our legacy, our future. 1, 2, 3.
United for land.